尊敬的战友们，呀，麦克风，麦克风，我好，尊敬的战友们好啊！这个现在我们和我们的伟大的班农先生正在这个咱们的这个盖特的新办公室啊，这个做这个现场的直播。今天是7月4号，伟大的美国啊，美利坚共和国的独立日。这个我们已经一起度过了好几个这个独立日了。特别是班农先生 ，We together 4 years. Together is the Independence American Day, right?
Yes, 4 years.
Yeah. 所以说今天这个感觉特别好。所以现在呢，今天又是一个特别的日子啊，盖特上线。So 我们先跟班农先生这块直播。啊，可以了啊。所以现在呢，这个请 ，please, you need to talk to we are all the.
Of course, last 4th of July we were on Lady May.
Yeah.
So enjoying the ocean. No, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and for watching today. It's America's birthday, but more importantly, I think the Declaration of Independence speaks to all people. It's a declaration of independence from a tyrannical government of everyone. So it's an incredibly important day, I think, globally, not just for the United States, and particularly for the diaspora of the Chinese people, and for Lao Beijing.
Yes. 刚才班农先生已经介绍了今天我们一起度过了，所以我们和班农先生我们已经这个度过了好几个的美国独立日啊，但今天在一起的时候感觉又不一样。So we are after, last year we are on the boat, 4 July. So today, just 300 days, 60 days, the world has a big change.
Big change.
Big change.
Number one is I told Miles that you have a beautiful voice and you should do your own singing.
Also today, it's a Gator, it's the launch day. So before I see you on the car, I get a message from China. It's Miles. Now we are starting hike you Gator. We shut down your Gator. I just see you 5 minutes. They shut down. They changed all the Pompeo, Peter Navarro, all the American famous people, the name, right?
Well, they don't want. Look, with Getter, that's a potential platform for global freedom, and it's the last thing the CCP wants. You can see from the celebration of the 100th anniversary, the last thing they want is the freedom of the Chinese people, or really freedom of people anywhere. So it doesn't surprise me. In fact, I would be disappointed if they had not hacked us.
你可以说一下，你给大家把我们俩说的翻译一下。
对，刚才郭先生说他在到办公室前的5分钟接到了来自于那个北京的这个消息，说已经要开始黑客攻击我们的盖特了。然后到了办公室之后，不到5到10分钟，我们整个盖特的这个很多大 V 的账户呢就被黑客掉了，然后用户名被改掉了。然后班农先生说，说这个我们所有的在这里，我们就要追求的是中国人的自由和新中国人的这个形象，我们的民主和自由。那么这个共产党黑客我们是非常正常的，如果我们不被共产党黑客的话，那么班农先生会感到非常意外。
I do want to mention one thing, and this is, all kidding aside, about the music on War Room, which is one of the biggest shows in the world, thanks to the support we've gotten from G News, GTV, and the Chinese people, Lao Beijing. But for the American people, one of the most powerful things, besides all the guests and all the information and all the Chinese people we have come on and talk about the CCP, one of the most powerful things is your song. Take down the CCP. No, young people in the United States sing it. Kids sing it. I have so many guests.
Take down the CCP.
It's so powerful.
That's true.
Yeah, but it's also so powerful. I mean, I have so many guests come on and go, "Where'd you get that song from? who's the Chinese musician?" I said, "No, that's actually Miles Grove." But that song, now that we've played it almost over a year because it came out about this time last year, it's had such a huge impact with the American people. Thinking about, I got it. It's the CCP. It's the CCP. It's the CCP. So it shows you that's why Getter. One of the things of a platform for Getter is to get cultural items out there and have a platform that the Silicon Valley oligarchs who are in business with CCP can't shut it down. You're going to see 1,000 flowers bloom off of that platform, like how powerful that song is and how powerful that message of take down the CCP has now been inculcated into the American people.
Yeah.
班农
我们小王子今天是主番啊，主番。
班农先生说他在这个整个这个班农战斗史这个非常大的平台上，非常重要的一点，在过去一年呢，就是在去年这个时候，文贵先生做出这个 Take Down CCP 这首歌，这首歌在美国非常非常流行，然后它的旋律朗朗上口，这个家喻户晓。然后班农先生说，这是为什么盖特这个平台这么重要？就算这个黑客能黑客掉我们，但是它改变不了整个这个盖特将掀起的一波以文化灭共的这个风波。所有的这个硅谷的这些科技巨头，他们都无法阻止整个这个文化灭共的这个巨潮。所以说，我们将会看到未来更多的人用音乐、用文化来去这个消灭共产党。
You talk to sir. I think yesterday we watched, the rally and President Trump's the speech is very powerful. 30,000 people from all the Americans, 3 hours, 4 hours the driver go there, nobody leave. Also the raining. This is the first time we are after 2020
yes.
see President Trump, and it's a good speech. Also look at him last week, right? Lost a lot. But how do you feel? Why him don't say take down CCP? Him still talk to Xi Jinping as a personal relationship.
Personal friend. No.
Personal friend.
I'm going to send you again, Miles. One of the things that I would love to get up on G News right now is to talk about that specific topic. But I said, I just sent to you, hang on. It's in Newsweek magazine. Newsweek magazine has a big story about what I said the other day. When President Trump came out and told Sean Hannity after the Texas, that he says, I've made up my mind, right? He's definitely running for president again. There's no doubt about it. And just for the Chinese audience, there's a couple of things going on to stay very close attention to. These audits, there's a huge controversy, and this is one of the things for the whistleblower movement in New Federal State and the diaspora of the Chinese people. Democracy, we're the oldest democracy right now, right, in the world, and you have to remember we have to fight for it every day, right?
Yeah.
We have to fight for it. We have to fight for it every day.
Yeah.
And it's a tough fight, and that's why what's happening about the 3 November movement is absolutely so. There's many people in America. I would say 40 to 45% of the country that believe strongly that President Trump won on November 3rd, as I did. Mike Lindell, who's announcing right now, and we're going to have him, he'll be up on Getter later, that on August he's going to prove to the world through data that the CCP hacked the American election and flipped it to Biden. Even without that information, we can show at these different states, you're going to see in Arizona, et cetera, that Trump actually won in 2020. And there's going to be a huge issue about all this. So the other thing is that campaign last night, that stop in Sarasota, 30,000 people, a 3-hour driving rainstorm outdoors with no protection, not one person left. And as we watched it here, you could tell that's a campaign speech. Trump's 100% in, 100% in. But don't worry about 2022 or 2024, of which we're going to win huge sweeping victories, right? Huge sweeping victories. But I think you're going to see in the next 60 days huge information coming out about President Trump actually winning these states. And I think you're going to see additional information if Mike Lindell has what he says he has on the cyber hacking, that you'll actually see the CCP's direct involvement in the 2020 election.
班农先生说，我们昨天看到这个川普总统在佛罗里达的这个演讲，大概有2-3万的民众到场支持。虽然说外面一直在刮风下雨，下了非常大的暴风雨，但是没有一个人离开。那么班农先生同时也提到，川普总统一定会在2024年继续参选竞选总统。 然后班农先生说，这是很多在中国追求民主自由的人是需要看到，就是说民主它的整个过程并不是完美的。那么很多的这个在摇摆州，比如说亚利桑那州，很多这些摇摆州的重新计票的结果呢，将会在接下来的几个星期到几个月内，被这些真相被公布于世界。那么比如说麦克林调，也就是买票路的老板。然后他在他的这个调查中呢，有非常多的有关于中共共产党直接干预美国大选，这个操纵美国大选，以导致拜登这个获得总统大选的这个结果。所以说，在接下来的几个月内，所有的这些真相呢，都会不断的被公布于公众。所以说，接下来几个月我们可能会看到对美国大选的一个重新的一个认识。
Let me say one other thing that's very important. Brother Miles, when he came to the United States, warned America and warned the West in April of 2017 exactly everything was going to happen. At the time, not enough important people paid attention to him. But given what you've warned about the Wuhan virus, the CCP virus, all of that, your new warning to America about additional bioweapons attacks, and particularly heading towards this potential kinetic war in Taiwan, after seeing Xi's performance at Tiananmen on 1 July, there's absolutely no doubt that's a call shot. Many, many, many prominent people in the United States now say Miles Guo's right. You can tell the arrogance, the disregard for the Chinese people, the disregard for the environmental situation in China, the disregard for the biological weapons issues in China, the disregard for the crumbling economy of China, and to have that arrogance that really, I think, his wall of steel, and we're going to bully, is clearly a warning that I think now plays into your warning you gave America, I think 2 weeks before the thing. So combine last night's rally, right, with that power. Remember, what you saw in that rally last night in Sarasota, for anybody that watched it, that's American Lao Beijing, right? That's old 100 names. That's the working class, simple common man in America. No super elite, no elites were there. That's the Trump movement. That's the MAGA movement.
班农先生说文贵先生呢是全世界第一个也是最早一个提醒美国共产党将会用生化病毒这个冠状病毒来袭击美国，产生生化战的一个第一个人。那么这个文贵先生在几个星期前，在习近平在天安门进行丑陋的演讲之前呢，也再次给美国各界进行了一个预警，说共产党将会用新型的这个生化病毒再次对美国发动和全世界发动病毒战争。同时呢，中共也有企图想用武力去统一台湾。那么在我们观看了习近平在7月1号在天安门上丑陋的表演以后呢，美国各界的人士都更加相信了文贵先生所说的，中共不仅仅要向世界再次发动这个生化病毒的袭击，同时呢，他也会用武力进行强力的去统一台湾。所以说，我们昨天晚上在这个川普总统在佛罗里达集会演讲下看到的，就是美国真正的工薪阶层的老百姓。所以说，现在美国人无论是美国各界还是说老百姓，大家都越来越相信文贵先生所说的关于中国共产党的邪恶。
Thank you, sir. You know, today is the 4th July, American Independence Day, right? Just 3 days ago is the CCP in the Tiananmen Screen. You know, you look at the Tiananmen Screen before in the 99, they used the tank, kill the students. Also, the same year, send me go to jail, right? I'm in the jail. I see a lot of fight for the China democracy, the people, young and students. Some people not just 17 years old, 18 years old, 20 years old, but they get the reaper, criminal, is in front of just my doors, 3 meters, killed young girls, young boy. I never see one people bacon, so CCP don't kill me, never. Yeah. So, but you look at the Tiananmen, now it's the more, 30 years after, Tiananmen is go back to North Korea style. Even 30 years ago, all the Chinese know North Korea is a disaster country, dictator country. North Korea is a very bad country. We never go back same it's the is North Korea style. But now, very strange. After 30 years opening up, this is the country open the door. Now let's go back to North Korea style.
But let me make this analogy that Tiananmen in '89 and what happened on July 1st a few days ago has a certain similarity to it, a certain symmetry to it.
Yeah.
And that is the young people that stood up in Tiananmen Square. And by the way, it was all throughout China, as they want to suppress it, but it was through Tiananmen. That was a new China. That was new Chinese. Those young people had been the babies that made it through the Cultural Revolution, right? This was a new China, and that's why it had to be put down by the regime. Also, it was the Bush administration, Scowcroft came over and saved the CCP. Remember, 30 days after Tiananmen, the senior elite of America flew over and told Deng Xiaoping, we've got your back, right? Because that whole regime could have collapsed just like the Berlin Wall. Cut to today, 100%. What you saw out there is not the young Chinese I know and see all the time. That's a bigger North Korea. That's the tragedy. That's not the greatness of Chinese civilization. The greatness of Chinese civilization is throughout the world right now with the diaspora. New China, the new Chinese are throughout the world, and they're prospering everywhere, in design, in media, in medicine, everywhere throughout the world that they have rule of law, freedom, etc. New China is being born outside of China, right? Because they have the blessings that the revolutionary generation here, the Declaration of Independence, guaranteed all humankind, all mankind. Yet, today, who's sending blessings to the CCP? CNN, Larry Fink at BlackRock, Schwartzman at Blackstone, Henry Kissinger, the same elite that saved the CCP in Tiananmen, that saved them. The same global elite that saved them. And why did they save them? They wanted to be business partners. The global elite don't care about the enslavement of the Chinese people. The enslavement of the Chinese people work for the global elite because that's the business model. So Tiananmen and last Thursday, July, there's no difference. The same players. You still have a rising, and that generation of young Chinese throughout the world that are now making it everywhere, right, and will never be beaten, are really the children of the Tiananmen Square. And that's why the democracy movement, what has come is that it's not so much of democracy for China today, the blessings of democracy, and they're going to take down the CCP. What Thursday convinced me when I saw it with all the flag waving and like the Nazis is that knowing the young Chinese, as I've always said, only the Chinese can take down the CCP. But their allies in the West that love them and appreciate them and support them will be there for them. But the CCP is done. It's gone. You can't have just a bigger China is one of the greatest civilizations in the world. It's just not a bigger North Korea, right? And that's what and with the Mao thing and trying to be Mao Zedong with the great helmsman and the brutality and dictatorship, it was obscene. It was an obscenity to the Chinese people and Chinese civilization.
文贵先生讲到，在1989年，当这个6·4的时候，共产党用这个坦克在天安门屠杀这个学生。同年呢，他也这个文贵先生也入狱，然后他看到了在监狱里看到了各种惨绝人寰的现象，但是他没有看到任何一个年轻的人去祈求中共说不要杀戮他，所有人都非常有骨气。那么30多年后的今天，在7月1号的天安门上，我们又看到了荒唐的一面。那么共产党在这30年不仅没有把中国像他说的一样改革开放，让中国发展进步，反而中国已经退化成了像朝鲜一样的这么一个国家，极端落后的一个国家。那么然后班农先生补充到，他说他是在1989年6·4事件在天安门上看到的那些学生呢，他才是代表了真正的新中国的民主的力量。那么在过去的30年，这些的新中国人已经到全世界各地生根发芽，在全世界有民主、有法治、有自由的国家，他们都生活得非常好，在文化、影视、音乐、商界各界都取得了卓越的成就。那么班农先生再次说到，说中国人只要有法治、民主、自由，中国人就一定会成功。但是在共产党领导下的中国人，尤其是在我们7月1号在天安门城下看到那些中国人，他并不是代表了真正的中国人，真正的中国人是追求民主和法治和自由的。那么班农先生说到，同样当年30多年前，在这个6·4事件之后， 后，在帮助共产党让共产党不倒台的这些西方的这些势力呢，比如说 CNN 啊这些大媒体的这些势力，在今天还是同一股势力在帮助共产党。但是当他看到了7月1号这个习近平和共产党在天安门上丑陋的表演之后呢，他越发的这个相信了共产党这样荒唐的表演，他是绝对不可能再继续下去的。共产党一定会被灭亡的，中国人一定会能够成功的追求民主和自由，推翻共产党的。
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, you know, Prince, when is it burned? Which year?
2000, January 19th.
2000.
New century.
1989. Him not burned, right?
No.
I'm in the jail.
Yeah.
But you look at the Tiananmen screen. It's 3 days ago.
His parents were probably
No,
little children, 11 years old. Probably parents are young people
the
too.
average, you know, it tell me totally is the 30 years old average in the Tiananmen screen 3 days ago. This young generation never burned. It's all the Tiananmen is young people.
Yes.
30 is average. You know what does it mean? CCP torture. We are grandfather, grandmother, mother, father, me and my son. 4 generation. So 100 years old. 100 years old slave, torture, Chinese 4 generation. Then 1776, July 1st, fall, American Independence Day. 1913, do you remember China as a May and fall a movement, democracy?
Yes.
1993, yes, you know, it's the Li Dazhao, it's all the CCP and the Beijing University, the young students want China have a democracy, dictator, Japan, French, you know, this is the contract, decrease China. America is help China, help Chinese, more than 100 years ago. But now, very strange, you look at the Tiananmen, everything's happened because Americans gave the CCP economy help, gave the CCP technology help, and the website help build the website, and the help CCP is a propaganda.
Yeah.
Also, West side media help the CCP blunt we are Chinese the eye. That's too ridiculous. So now it's 1921. Until the 2021 is 100 years anniversary. They want to say, no, this is the 100 years we burned all the world. We want the next 100 years create a new world. What does it mean? They are take down all the old world, China, 5,000 years old civilized. They try to burn the world, everybody Marxism. Now they want the next 100 years to create a new world. What is the new world? The new world last 100 years, American leading the world. 哎，这个电视显示关掉了。It's the 回来了又everywhere 是 hack. It's the last year 100 years American leading the world. They meanwhile they want to broken the before the 100 years old years history. They want to create the next 100 new years, new 100 years old. Is want to bring down America. That's totally ridiculous. You look at American Wall Street, Hollywood media, you please. That's cold. Now it's a suicide.
文贵先生说整个共产党100年的整个对中国人民的整个这个奴役，它整整影响了4代人。那么从1776年的时候，7月4号，美国当时宣布了美国的独立日。那么在1913年5·4运动的时候，中国人民真正站起来了，要求中国的民主这个运动。但是从100多年前一直到今天，这个共产党领导下的中国不仅没有一点民主的进步，反而越来越退步了。那么文贵先生说，这其中最根本的原因就是说，美国这些既得利益阶层，包括媒体、科技这些巨头，帮助在经济上、在科技上，帮助共产党去奴役中国人民。这个从1921年到2021年，在过去的100年，共产党说他已经把整个旧的这个世界给毁灭了。那么在接下来的100年，他要把这个灾难带给新的这个世界。那么在过去的100年呢，是美国领导的整个这个世界。在未来的100年，共产党的目标是要要干掉美国，然后用共产党他的这个邪恶的统治方式来去统治他所创造所谓他的这个新世界。
You see, Miles, that's why I think I want to go back to Sarasota. What happened in 1989 was American elites understanding they could have a business partner with the CCP, right? The global elites, global financial and corporate elites. That's why they saved the CCP. They thought it'd be easier to be in business with Deng Xiaoping than the messiness of democracy. Remember, the CCP, when did the CCP understand they had a problem and had to send in military troops? When the young people of China built a replica of the Statue of Liberty. When the Goddess of Liberty, came up, Deng Xiaoping, the very smart guy, said, "This is starting to look like the American Revolution." Right? And we know how that turned out for the British, right? Yeah. They saw the Goddess of Liberty and they said, "Hang on for a second. These people are sudden. They're not just upset at Beijing University. They want actual freedom, like the Americans got the freedom, right? Put down." That's why in Sarasota, what you saw is American Lao Beijing. Remember, the American people don't support this whatsoever. 100% don't support it. That's why you're seeing. That's why Trump won in 2016. That's why he won again in 2020, and they had to steal it, right? The elites stole it. Why? The elites want to be in business with the CCP. They're comfortable. They don't care about Lao Beijing. They don't care about if the Chinese are in slave labor or not. They don't care. So, and this is the one point I want to make. Think about it. The CCP says it's 5,000 years. I actually argue it's 10 or 15,000 years of Chinese civilization. It's always been the most advanced civilization on Earth, right? You know, the Chinese were actually living very civilized. When the West, we were in caves, okay? We were in caves, right? Before the Romans. We were in Europe, France and Germany, they were barbarians, right? And in England, you know, big red beards living in caves. How can it be that in 2021, the great Chinese people are the only people on Earth that don't have free access to all information, ability to vote, to have political parties, to have political arguments? How can it be the greatest civilization arguably in the world and the oldest outside of Egypt? And the Egyptians vote, the Indians vote, all of Africa votes, all of Europe votes, all of Latin America votes, all of the Micronesia, all the islands in the Pacific vote. Everywhere votes except for a couple of small, tiny countries around the oil in the Middle East, and that's all going to change, right? Even the mullahs in Persia have to have at least a phony vote, right? The only people on earth that cannot vote and cannot have a free debate is the Chinese people. That's absurd. It's beyond ridiculous. Just on the face of it, that in itself cannot continue. It's just absurd. The 21st century, and you look at the free Chinese throughout the world, the creation they've done in medicine, in science, in technology, in business, in sports, Mr. Han, and you look at how they've added to every country, Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, the United Kingdom. Tremendous. And the example of Hong Kong. And you're telling me in 2021 that 1.4 billion people, Chinese, are too dumb, too idiotic, too dangerous to vote, to have their own information? It's obscenity. This is why history will show the people in the West, the elites, Wall Street, the City of London, all the corporations that supported this murderous dictatorship will all be looked at as exactly the same people who supported the Nazis in the 1930s, right? The CCP's got to fall. It's impossible to see these young Chinese out here, the new China, and to think that 1.4 billion people of the oldest and most ancient civilization we have, in all its glory and all its nobility and all the decency and common hard work of the Chinese people, can't even get information and can't actually say, I like this guy, but I don't like this guy. I want to vote for him, and heck with him. He's a bad guy. But the Declaration of Independence, because it started here in 1776 with a brilliant group of revolutionaries who said, there's no divine right of kings. God does not come and give kings the right. The people, the little guy, the rights go to the people. Unalienable rights come to you from God. No government on earth can come through that. When that is fully embraced and understood by the Chinese people, the CCP will fall in 30 days. Will into the dustbin of history. Forget. In the 100 years that they ruled and destroyed China will be the blackest 100 years in Chinese civilization. That I can guarantee you.
Super, 100% agree. 喷，你先翻译。
班农先生说，从1989年天安门事件到今天，共产党能活下来的唯一原因，就是说整个美国的这些既得利益集团、大媒体和科技巨头都在不断的支持共产党。但是呢，就是这也是为什么我们要提到昨天川普总统在佛罗里达的演讲，就是说川普总统在佛罗里达演讲，真正的支持他的是美国真正的老百姓。那么美国真正的人民和老百姓，他们是绝对不支持整个美国这些利益集团巨头和共产党合作，去奴役中国人民的这个事情的。那么他说，就是说这个共产党当年在1989年真正的把坦克、把部队派到天安门去屠杀学生的根本原因，是因为邓小平看到了这些年轻的学生制造的一个这个自由女神像，把自由女神带回了中国。他们从这些年轻的学生身上看到了美国当年独立战争的这个追求自由的美国先父们身上的这些精神。他们知道这些人我们这些英勇的学生，他们想要的不仅仅是要改革共产党这个体制，而是真正的想要追求民主和自由，要求一个民主的一个体制。那么班农先生又提到说，这个大家都说中国是有5000年的历史，但实际上他认为中国是有10000到15000年的历史。然后他说，当中国这个历史是他非常非常喜欢的中国文化，他觉得是世界上最优秀的、最先进的。当西方人还在留着大胡子在山洞里住的时候，中国人已经建起了高楼大厦，已经有了文化，有了自己的丝绸，有了自己的衣服，有了自己的书籍。但是为什么在几千年后的今天，2021年，在当全世界连穆斯林国家，连这个印度、俄罗斯这些很多的这些国家，土耳其他们都能够去投票的时候，而中国人民却连自由的上网的权利、自由发声的权利都没有。他觉得这是一个十分荒唐的一个事情。为什么世界上最古老、最先进、最优秀的文明，在共产党统治100年之后，竟然堕落到今天的如此的这个地步？他觉得这是一个极端荒唐的事情。那么他说，同时你也看到，只要是离开了中共统治下中国的中国人，来到全世界有民主、自由和法治的地方，所有的中国人都变得非常优秀，他们在各方面都取得了突出的成绩。所以证明了共产党所说的这个共产党是中国人种的问题，这完全是荒唐的。中国人种没有任何问题，只要有民主和法治和自由，中国人就一定可以成功。他说，这也是为什么我们如果从历史往后看的话，这个所有今天支持和过去支持共产党的人都会在历史上被记录下，就像当年他们支持了纳粹一样。那么他同时也看到共产党一定会灭亡的一个原因，因为在1776年美国国父们他们所创立的，他们所发现最重要的一个理念就是说，人们追求自由的人权和自由，并不来源于任何一个政府，而是来源于上帝没有任何一个政府能够剥夺上帝给予人们追求自由的权利。当中国人民真正明白了这个道理的时候，共产党不到30天就一定会被灭亡，它会被扫进历史垃圾堆。
100% agree, sir。哎，你这样，你叫班农先生要今天谈谈咱们被黑客的这个意义的背后是什么？你叫班农先生谈。
Mr. Bannon, Mr. Mousco wants to ask you about what's the significance of the Gather platform being hacked by the CCP today?
It's everything. I would be disappointed if they had not hacked it. The one thing the CCP can't take is a marketplace of ideas, because their ideas are not sellable. So Getter is simply a platform for a marketplace of ideas. And you don't all have to agree. You're not going to agree. Human beings are not going to agree on everything. It's just that's how life is. That's not a problem, because you argue it out. The better ideas win. Remember, the CCP understands if they had a better idea, they wouldn't have the social credit score. If they had a better idea, they wouldn't have a firewall. If they had a better idea, they would let the Chinese people vote and vote them in. If they're so popular and their eyes are so good, they would love to. Why wouldn't they just have democracy? Because obviously, in their mind, 1.3 billion of the 1.4 billion, 4 billion would vote. They don't have better ideas, and they don't want to have those ideas challenged. right? It's just like any dictatorship. So no, I think Getter is very simple. It's just a platform for people away from the oligarchs of Silicon Valley who are in business with the CCP. Remember, all of Silicon Valley is infiltrated by CCP cash and CCP operatives. All the oligarchs are completely, they're mini-me versions of the CCP. They want to have mind control, police your thoughts. That the thing of Getter is to provide a marketplace ideas, and that's why the CCP is going to hack it. And I would tell people it's going to be hacked all the time, constantly, and it just is. But that is a good thing, because it shows you how much they fear your ideas, not Miles Grove's ideas, not Steve Bannon's ideas, not Prince's ideas, your ideas. That's what they fear, right? They can't compete with that, and they don't want any ability for you to communicate with each other.
班农先生说，他一点都不惊讶共产党今天骇客了我们的这个盖特平台，反而如果共产党今天不骇客我们盖特的平台，他会感到非常的惊讶，因为盖特的平台它的根本是一个言论自由的一个平台，那么每个人都可以在这个平台上文明的、自由的发表你的言论。但是虽然说很多人你们发表的言论不可能和其他人不一样，或者你并不同意其他人的这个言论，但是说这就是言论自由的本身，你并不需要去同意其他人所有人的这个观点，但是你需要尊重他们能够发表观点的这个自由。那么这个班农先生同时也提到了，就是说今天非常重要的就是我们盖特平台宣布了我们从所有美国这些硅谷这些科技巨头寡头的独立，宣布了从他们整个垄断这个科技行业的这个社交媒体行业的这个独立。那么所有的这些跟共产党这个掺合在一起支持共产党的这些科技巨头呢，他们就像在美国就像小共产党一样，这个时刻管控着人们的言论自由。为什么他们要管控人们的言论自由呢？因为他们害怕人们的言论，因为他们所推崇的这些统治世界这些观点并不是最优越的，而是最落后的。那么真正的我们能够自由发声，老百姓我们所说出来的在言论自由平台上所发布的这些言论呢，是比这些共产党和这些科技寡头他们所要描绘的这个世界，他们的世界观是要比他们更优越更好的。所以说这也是为什么他们要骇客我们的原因，因为他们真正怕的并不是说文贵先生所说的或者班农先生所说的，而是真正所有美国和中国和世界老百姓你们的心声，这是他们最恐惧的。
Thank you, sir. 咱们现在呢，这个盖特被黑客呢，今天是黑客完以后，黑客留下了说我是 S1 黑客，到 Twitter 去找我，然后呢，这100%是共产党干的啊，因为在我上楼之前，就共产党的内部的人 ，PLA 的3部的人给我发信息说，七哥你准备好，现在骇客你，我上楼10分钟啊，不是5分钟，10分钟，我下班呢，我说我们很快就被骇客了。然后呢，我就问，我还在上面打电话问舅，我说还没被骇客吗？然后就骇客就完了，因为这是个国家级的，我们战友都是参与写这个密码的，这个密码就是说这个一般的什么骇客不可能啊，不可能。那么我们有3个问题，他为什么这么高级的还不骇客 Twitter 呢？他怎么不骇客 Facebook 呢？他怎么不骇客这个 YouTube 呢？这么他只骇客我们盖特呢，对吧？我说不骇客，说明我们跟共产党有勾结。另外一个，他能骇客得了吗？他骇客不了。今天骇客，美国人会思考。他第一个改的就是庞皮奥的，庞皮奥已经入驻到我们盖特了，是吧？他把旁边的名字夸都改成名字，所有的大 V 全改个名字，这是对美国自由法治、国家网络安全的挑战。当年班农在白宫的时候，我就看到他讲过说，当时跟习近平当时在那个马拉格见面。他讲的，他说这个网络的攻击就等同于战争，那这个就等同于战争啊。所以说，这对我们上年送的礼物啊，你继续害啊，你继续害，你最后把它炸了才好呢，对吧？然后我们用自身砍掉一个胳膊，能警告世人说魔鬼来了，我们砍2胳膊都愿意，对不对呀？这就是爆料革命新中国联邦，而且盖特的团队非常的专业，干得非常的好，非常的冷静啊。
Mr. Mouse said today when he 10 minutes before he walked into the office, he got a call from the PLA, the insiders in the PLA telling him that the hacker is going to be hacked, Together is going to be hacked, And he walked in the office and called Joe and said, "Hey, has the hacker been hacked?" Joe said, "Not yet." And then 5 minutes later, the Getter platform is hacked. So it's very normal for Getter to be hacked because, if we take a look at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all these other platforms, why doesn't the Getter go hack them? Why doesn't the hacker go hack those platforms? Instead, they come after us. So it shows that we're not in bed with the CCP, and it shows that they fear us. Another thing that Mr. Miles mentioned was that this when he listened to Mr. Bannon when he was at the White House, Mr. Bannon said that a cyber attack, a cyber warfare in today's world equals actual warfare, equals actual war. So when Pompeo, Peter Navarro, and all these American influencers, politicians, people who've seen how the Getter platform was hacked, this is actually not just an attack on Getter, this is an attack on America and national security. This will show the entire world how the CCP and all their interest groups are feared of us, and it will, in the future, help to wake people up about the danger of the CCP and cyber warfare.
This is what I think is the same thing that Mike Lindell is saying. That he's convinced, and he will show evidence to the world on August 11th, 10th, 11th, and 12th of the hacking of the election by the CCP. Remember, the CCP understands that they've got to suppress the American people. This is the whole reason you're warning about the bioweapon, right? The bioweapon, the hack of the election, the hack of Getter, right, are all of us a piece. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. The CCP must make sure that they keep not the elites, but keep the common people in the West either sick, not having their politicians elected, or not being able to make to have free communications. But the oligarchs in Silicon Valley, because the CCP are smart, they understand that the rise of the American people in partnership with Lao Beijing is going to take their dictatorship down, and that's why the elites in the West, in Silicon Valley, the oligarchs also want to suppress it with a lack of a platform for free information. It's very logical. I mean, there's no mystery here. There's no mystery. It's pretty straightforward, right? This is one of the reasons about your warnings to the West. If you go back and read Miles's, because people say, "Oh, crazy Miles Guo, your crazy uncle," and I said, just look at Miles. I said, I'm a fact person. Just go back and look at the facts. His warnings have all come true, right? Including this last warning from 2 weeks ago, where he warned about the bioweapon and warned about Taiwan. And she sits right there, and he just basically says, "Hey, we're going to war in Taiwan to save my regime."
Kill you part by part.
Part by part. If you want to submit, no problem. If you don't want to submit, you're killed. But also, he's doing it to save his own regime. So it's pretty obvious, and I think that I would tell people, I think the hack of Getter, and it's going to continue. Don't think it's going to stop. It's going to be constantly, particularly as more and more ideas come up to the Chinese people, the more they're going to hack it.
班农先生说这个整个这个就是对今天对盖特的黑客攻击呢就非常重要，因为它同时让我们看到，就像麦克林调枕头哥在接下来几个星期、几个月会向美国各界展示证据一样，就是说整个2020年大选是被共产党的黑客整个操纵攻击的。那么整个网络安全对于美国国家安全来说是这个至关重要的。那么同时他说 CCP 共产党做出黑客盖特、黑客美国大选这个决定是非常有逻辑性的，非常正常的。因为共产党的目的是他想让美国人民也不拥有民主，也不拥有自由，让美国人民不能够选出他们想要的政客。这样的话，因为他们知道，如果美国人民选出了他们想要的政客，美国人民一定不会容忍美国的政客和美国的这些大佬们跟共产党纠缠在一起去奴役中国人民，他们一定会联合起来把共产党给推翻。所以为什么他们要黑客盖特、黑客美国大选平台的这个根本的原因。他同时也说到，就是说整个这个很多人都说文贵先生之前说的很多事情都说文贵先生是疯狂啊各种，但是他说他是一个基于相信事实的一个人。他说如果你去看一下历史，文贵先生说的所有的事情，他的预言、他的警告都已经成为了现实，尤其是包括在过去几个星期内，文贵先生又向世界第二次发出的，共产党对世界将再次发动这个生化病毒，包括对台湾要台湾粉身碎骨的 这么一个警告。所以说共产党一定在未来一定会更多的继续的去骇客我们的盖特平台以及我们其他的追求言论自由的平台，这一切攻击并不会停止，它一定会继续下去。
Thank you 啊，小王子的英文太好了，这就是新中国联盟有个 You know, the Prince, the English is wonderful, right? Prince English, yeah.
Too handsome.
Too handsome.
Too handsome.
Too young. English is too good.
Too handsome.
So, sir, that's very important. Today, I have a lot of, friends send a message giving me. So, Miles, why CCP too scared is the getter? Even they hack the getter, just 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, they cannot disappear the getter. But why America nobody is the say something? Because getter is American company, right? Also, is the people asking me why. The getter is the getter the hack is the high level. They already know the high levels. American is no defense. We are in America. We in the central area. It's the homeland security. It's the defense. The developer. Nobody do this.
That's the same homeland. That's the same Homeland Security that said this was the safest election, most secure election in American history. Just consider the source, right? Mike Lindell will show you all the hacks that happened by CCP.
That's why also I'm very interested. It's the 2015. I have a big war. It's the Beijing University. The Fountain Group. I'm the number 2. My family is shareholders. So the CCP, is Jiang Zemin family, the Wang Enge University, is the chairman. Before it's the 30 years study in the Stanford. It's the high-level professor. And also his wife is a high-level, professor, in the American study Stanford. 30 years. This do what? 他是那个物理核科学家，怎么说？
Physics and nuclear scientist.
Top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Top 5 wife and him. Him is before Chairman Mao. Time is the commander in the North China. This is the family and here Stanford study nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapon kill who? Only kill you America. Then go back to Beijing as the university chairman. I give it him July 2nd, 2012. I give it a donate 1 billion cash. July 2nd, 7月2号啊，2012年我捐给北京大学10亿人民币现金。100 years history, only one person gave the donate 1 billion cash. You know this prince, right? They have their article. Then 2015, they want to take me all the assets, don't give me back. So I have big fight. Now, today, just 8 hours ago, gave me good gifts. This 300 billion group, bankrupt. Announced, right? Prince, you see this. And the Fountain Group.
And arrested all those guys?
Yes, and the Fountain Group.
For corruption?
Not corruption, this is huge. And many reasons. Americans stop give the technology. This is the Fountain Group is create China the verb code 这个字源码源代码
The source code.
source code
For all the typing stuff.
还有这个多米尼软件的创始者
Oh, and the Dominion voting software. That's the Fountain Group who
Dominion,
created it.
yes.
That's just 8 hours ago announced bankrupt. 你翻译给大家说。
文贵先生说，今天早上很多美国的人，跟那文贵先生发信息说，共产党为什么这么恐惧这个盖特这个平台？然后说这个共产党为什么美国没有任何能力去阻止共产党这个骇客？然后文贵先生提到说，现在我们在的这个地方，美国纽约曼哈顿的中心，国土安全部 FBI 都在这里，这应该是美国最安全的地方。但是共产党却是能够成功的把我们这个平台给骇客掉。 然后班农先生说到说然后吴文先生还提到说，盖特是一个美国的一个公司，然后受美国的法律的保护，受美国国家的保护，但是共产党还是这么肆无忌惮的骇客我们的平台。然后班农先生说这个国土安全部是同一个说2020年大选是全世界最安全的大选的这个国土安全部，非常有讽刺意义的一个事情。那么吴文先生说到说2015年这个方正集团，这个王峰哥和王恩哥和他的妻子在斯坦福大学都是30年的这个经历，专门学这个物理还有核科学的。那么在这个2012年的7月2号，郭文贵先生是有史以来第一个，也是唯一一个10亿人民币现金捐赠给北京大学的人。但是在2015年的这个北京的这些人就跟吴文先生翻脸，要把吴文先生所有的资产都是这个查封。然后最近我们看到了这个整个方正集团3000亿的整个这个资产的方正集团完全的这个倒塌。然后方正集团是控制了中国这些输入软件源代码的，包括他创造了美国多米尼的这个投票的这个系统。
You know why, brother? My master, this is God with us. God help us. Penalty, disappear, any enemy, any bad guy. Karma, reincarnation. Oh, you're so smart now. Now Chinese religion. You're too much now. It's the Chinese culture. This is so. Okay, sir. I want you, talk. We have a lot of people. I think near 670,000 now people. So, any Chinese need now. It's 1776. It's the Henry Lee is the make announce 宣言. See, this is Independence Day. Declaration. Then is America is totally changed. Then it's the Rhode Island, right? In the Rhode Island, they have it have the law, right? This is the American independence. You look at that's amazing. Make American is the great country, leading the world. It's the 200 years. After World War II, because American they take down the Hitler, Japan, this army crazy group dictator, ridiculed the world. After World War II, globally the people the human rights misery is lowered 10,000 years. 整个人类的死亡率和灾难来自于灾难、自然和病疫、战争的死亡率，从过去的平均是50%，甚至高于50%，直接到了15%，是人类从来没有的。人类的文明、人类的所有的科技发展，这100年是人类过去万年的总和，可以说是交通、科技、医药、地震、自然灾害。由于发明了飞机、汽车、交通、海洋、空中雷达等等等，而且人类向了太空发展。说美国这个国家呢，它把地球变成了一个村，让大家来共享利益，当然它不是完美的。而共产党把自己这个国变成了一个家，变成北朝鲜，都成了几家管的。而美国虽然是世界最大的强国，也有很贪婪的一面，但它毕竟让人类在享受这种科技和现代的文明和宗教和信仰的自由。还有民主，这是重大的不同的意义。为什么共产党他就看不明白？为什么美国却支持共产党这样？你要给班农先生翻译。
Mr. Mouseward first talked about all the bad karmas that happened to all the bad people who are against us, who are against the Chinese people wanting their freedom. He said in 1776, when the founding fathers of America declared the Declaration of Independence, it changed America forever and it changed history forever. It's amazing history that America was able to lead the world for over 200 years, that America was able to defeat the Nazis and imperialism during World War II. Over the past 100 years, the technology advances and achievements, whether it be cultural, democratic, or political, economic, all the advances that we've made in the past 100 years is greater than the sum of the past 10,000 years that we were able to achieve. We were able to lower the accidental death rate for people from, somewhere around 50% to around 15% over the past 100 years, a dramatic decrease in death rate. So we've had much better lives over the past 100 years than people had over the past 10,000 years. So that is because America was able to turn the world into a small village and it was able to spread democracy and ideals of freedom around the world. But the CCP, what they do is they turn the entire country and now in the entire world, they want to turn into a family its own and not one dictator, one person. And then that's what destroys the Chinese culture. That's what will destroy the culture of the world. So. So he couldn't understand why the CCP doesn't understand this very simple thing that if you let the people, if you give them the freedom, if you let them do their own thing, then the people will make their own technological advances. And then he said that American will in the future understand this too, that if we give Chinese people freedom, everybody will be much better off.
Yeah.
Sure how Miles good. Miles doubles as our technician.
Before we don't prepare is the broadcast, right?
Yeah.
以前我们今天我们不直播了，但是呢，由于我知道这个共产党要黑客我们，我说班农先生我们得直播，这个是我说我要马上直播，所以说就没准备，希望大家能够原谅，抱歉啊。
He said we weren't going to do a broadcast, but after he learned about hacking, we decided to do one.
I want to just respond. I just want to respond to what Miles said. And this is one of the reasons that America, there's a great awakening here. Let's go back to that document written in 1776. The two most powerful parts of it, I think, are that your rights come from God. Your rights don't come from Xi. Your rights don't come from the American president, don't come from the government. There's no government. There's no human apparatus that comes between you and God. And your unalienable rights as a human being for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is the most brilliant phrase, the unalienable rights from God. And who ever thought in mankind's history the individual pursuit of happiness, what makes you happy, right? That's the power of a revolutionary generation in America that spoke to all mankind. And look in China. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life. The Chinese Communist Party has killed, murdered, tortured to death, starved to death 100 million Chinese, right, in their 100 years, plus aborted, murdered 400 million Chinese babies, 80% of which were women, right? That makes almost 500 million Chinese people in 100 years. They're the most murderous dictatorship on earth. So if you take the first thing of life, they've taken life away from the Chinese people. Number two, liberty. We just talked about that. The Chinese people are the only people on earth that can't vote and can't get information to vote, can't argue. It's ridiculous, not even worth talking about. And last, the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. You see the pursuit of happiness in the Chinese people, the diaspora, the Chinese people that have left mainland China. And if you look at the Chinese people, when I see them all over, one thing you notice is how happy they are, how joyous they are. Doing whatever work the pursuit of happiness, the diaspora of the Chinese people, and particularly New China and Young China, see that. It's the pursuit of happiness. They're the living embodiment of the revolutionary generation of the American who really came from the Enlightenment, right? It was the Enlightenment of understanding this great awakening that God gives you these rights. And that if I can, anything in this broadcast today, and thinking about the 4th of July and the Declaration of Independence, it is that, and quite frankly, there are many people in the United States that have forgotten this, that, about unalienable rights come from God to you, right? The last thing I want to just leave with, Miles, is that America, and I did this yesterday for 2 hours. We're going to do it 2 hours in the War Room tomorrow. Today is not the day we won our independence. It's the day we declared our independence. Declared our independence. That's about intention. Intention. That's the power of the new federal state of 4 June, right, of 1990. It's the intention to be free. It took us 8 years. It took America 8 years in a bloody revolutionary war against the most powerful empire on earth, the British Empire, with the greatest navy and the greatest army, against a bunch of colonists. So when the Chinese people sit there and look at the long odds against this brutal, murderous dictatorship that's in business with every power player in the world, whether that's Twitter or CNN or the New York Times or the politicians in America or the City of London and all the merchant banks in London and all the governments and the party of Davos and all the elites, and you're nothing but a poor Chinese still peasant living in rural China, and it looks like, how can I take this on? It's not just the Chinese Communist Party of Beijing, it's the entire elite of the world. How can I do that? Well, the farmers here in Lexington and Concord, it took them 8 years, but it happened. And first is that intention for liberty, and that's the power of the new federal state. It's the intention. That was the declaration of independence for the Chinese people. You're going to have a long, tough fight, but I got to tell you, as an observer of this, and I think I've done a pretty good job of predicting things, what you saw on 1 July in Beijing at Tiananmen Square cannot last. That's ridiculous. That's just North Korea. And the Chinese people are going to have to fight for their freedom, but that freedom is, you can see that freedom's out there. It's now just executing upon it and winning it. So thank you. And by the way, as I've said, the underground house Christians and the Catholics in China are going to lead Christianity in this century because of your example of all the torture and mayhem and chaos brought upon you to stop understanding that inalienable right that God gives you as Chinese, God gives you as Africans, God gives you as Europeans, God gives you as Americans. It's you and God. Nobody can come between that. Your inalienable rights to your pursuit of happiness.
班农先生说，在1776年美国独立宣言中最重要的2点，第一就是说，人们追求自由和权利，这个和幸福的权利来源于不是你的政府，不是习近平，不是美国总统，不是任何一个政府，而是来源于上帝和万父万神。那么第二个就是说，人们最根本的，你不可剥夺的是人们的3个权利。第一是他生存的权利，他追求他生命健康，保护自己的生命的权利。第二个是他追求自由的权利。第三个是他追求幸福的权利。那么这3个权利，尤其是然后这3个权利是来源于上帝，这2点是美国独立宣言里他认为最重要的2点。那么他说，我们今天看一看今天的中共国统治下的中国。首先我们来说中国人追求生命的权利。那么他说，中国在过去100年统治下，至少有超过1亿的中国人死于共产党的手下，死于非命，有超过将近4亿的人死于这个计划生育，整个加起来有超过5亿的人，至少超过5亿的人，在中共的统治下丧生了生命。所以说中国人在中共的统治下根本没有生命，根本一点都不值钱，这个廉如草芥。第二个是中国人追求自由的权利。我们刚刚讲到了，中国人是世界上唯一一个这个古老的先进的文明里唯一一个没有任何自由，不能投票，不能上网，不能这个发表言论自由的这么一个国家。第三个，追求幸福的权利。那么我们也谈到了，就是中国人现在连追求生命的权利都没有，那么何谈他追求自由的权利，追求幸福的权利呢？然后班农先生讲到，就是说他看到了关于新中国联邦最重要的事情，就并不是说我们就是现在已经成功了。他说，同时提到你要看到当年美国国父宣布独立宣言的时候，它仅仅是一个开始。他宣布了独立宣言宣布的是他想要推翻这个世界上当时最强大的英国整个这个殖民统治的这么一个帝国。这个意愿能够去这个宣布他去推翻英国统治的殖民统治这个意愿，这是最重要的。他在这个新中国联邦人身上看到了这样强大的意志力。他说，我们的未来还会有非常长的路，非常艰难的路要走。但是他说，在他越发看到了7月1号习近平在天安门上荒谬像北朝鲜一样的荒谬的表演之后，他更加相信新中国联邦人一定可以干掉共产党，将自由带回中国。
把我麦克风打开。这个我觉得班农先生刚才讲的这些呢，实际上我们兄弟姐妹当我们看到特别是今天7月4号美国独立日的时候，我们想想当年的5四想想1921、1913年，我觉得看到我们这几天 发生的所有的事情，实际上大家都很清楚，都不是傻人啊。实际上我们都知道7月1号共产党还在被法庭上审。那么天安门这个广场发生的这些奇怪的事情，到了北朝鲜的境界包括我们今天7月4号美国独立日，我们盖特上线他被骇客几乎可以预料中，他很多都是常识这种常识经历了100年，还在我们这个民族当中还发展，就在这个民族在还存在，它已经不仅仅是共产党在的问题，这更大的程度是我们中国人这种真的是我觉得在非正义和邪恶面前即使你承诺，你也是犯罪的。你没有说话，你没有行动，你保持沉默，你也是犯罪。上帝绝不会宽恕一个在犯罪和邪恶面前沉默的人，不会饶过你的，就不会宽恕你。那我们中国人说实话都是被害者，但是我们也都是犯罪人。任何人懂得这个道理的时候，你会看待新中国联邦，看待人生。美国人，我这些年几十年来打交道，然后这几年在这边长期住，就美国绝大多数人骨子里边这个，你不信？你看半路面大街上，你去打半路相当于拳过去，所有旁边人绝大多数人会说你为什么打他？如果你打一个过路的女人，你一定是绝大多数人会打你。你要是打一个孩子，绝大多数人会打你。在中国，当众强奸孩子，当众打老人，灌老人屎，灌老人尿，都没人敢管。就这个国家，这个民族这个100年的灾难，绝不仅仅是共产党。我们这个民族要不再认识到这个问题，我们永远不会有美国的7月4号。人家1776年就已经，人家是个民族的伟大。你来翻译这个。
Mr. Mountford said that, overlooking the May 4th movement, overlooking 1921, the founding of the Chinese Communist Party, the 100 years of the ruling over China, and then now looking at, the Tiananmen Square, what happened on July 1st, the North Korean style salute, everything is going backward, and then today our Getter being hacked. All of these things are very predictable. We knew Getter was going to get hacked. We knew President Xi Jinping was going to do what he did on Tiananmen Square on July 1st. All of these are just common sense. But what's ridiculous about this is that after 100 years after the May 4th movement, after the awakening of the Chinese people, that phenomena like this can still exist. It still happens. He said one thing that he believes with strong certainty is that bystanders of evil. If you do nothing in front of pure evil, then you're also complicit in committing the evil. 100%. That God will not forget bystanders 100%. Of pure evil. So, once you understand that, you will take a new look at the new Federal State of China and understand how important and what significant it is. So, the one thing that he said is, the Chinese Communist Party, as evil as it is, it's not just a disaster for the Chinese people, but for the world people as well. And it's a great disaster for the Chinese people because they allow such evil to happen. And if it continues, it will be a huge disaster for all the Chinese civilization. And after he said, one thing he sees in American people is that most American people have a righteous heart. He said if someone sees him beating you on the street, or if someone sees someone hitting a woman or a child on the street, 99% of Americans will come up and stop it. They will not be bystanders of pure evil. But in China today, you can see old women, old people, child on the street being raped, being killed, and people will just walk by like nothing's happened. And he felt very disappointed about it, and that must change for the Chinese people in order for us to overthrow the CCP.
100%. Righteous heart, very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah. 这就是为什么当我们面对共产党的邪恶的时候，我的兄弟被杀，我的母亲被气死，我在这个天安门广场，这个所有的抗议之前，我给学生的捐款，还有我到抓进清风看守所，22个月，还是不行是吗？还是不行是吗？天，还是不行！你们这怎么搞的嘛？这是拿走这个。 那么在所有的我经历了生死啊，我看到几十个这种民主斗士啊被战死，我看到了中国人更多的是冷漠和沉默啊。一个社会的沉默和冷漠和自私啊，就会让这样的就像小王子这样的孩子有可能根本就不会出生。小王子的2000年出生，他就从来不会想过中国人在他出生那个年代里有4亿人胎死腹中啊！我是今天早上的时候，这个醒来，7月4号，因为我这发生了7月4号这一天太多事情了啊！我曾经在一年的7月4号去看望在清风看守所，啊，这个一起被杀掉的一个监史的一个战友啊，他的母亲说：“你为什么选择7月4号来看我？”因为他母亲是一个副校长。我说：“因为你的孩子啊是这个为了中国的民主啊这个牺牲的。我虽然跟你有联系，从来没看过。我说我就想来看你啊。”他说：“我希望有一年的7月4号的时候，你再来看我的时候，就已经没有共产党了。老人家还给我做了饭吃啊。今天早上的时候，我醒来啊，我从4点多一直到6点钟就回信息，然后呢，因为每天早上我先给我母亲去，每天都去给老人家给老人家拜啊、祈福啊。就今天就控制不住的，就泪如雨下，就控制不住啊。就为什么？就是当年我就想起我母亲跟我说过，她说：“孩子，我知道你是好心啊，你要中国人过上有尊严啊、民主、安全啊、有法治的社会。”他说：“但是你看看中国，咱现在所有人都想混个吃，混个热炕头，啊，哪怕只要活着，像猪一样的活着，这就够了，啊。”这个他当时就我记得很清楚的，我母亲说：“你看，他说你在被关押期间，你所有的东西都被警察给没收了，没有任何人觉得这个没收你的东西是不合法的，是不应该的。他乡里乡亲没有觉得你是被冤枉进去的，也甚至都不会想你为了什么说你是个傻子，你搞什么民主啊，什么天安门捐款，他说你不是找死吗？是都觉得我是疯子，我是错的，没有任何同情，啊，任何同情没有，啊，当时我母亲说这话的，我母亲是哭得泪如雨下，啊，她说我觉得我支持你这么干啊，但是我跟我母亲我没法说我要干掉共产党什么的，啊，所以我就后来就喝酒，喝醉酒了就跟我在我娘面前哭，一哭就是哭一晚上，但是我从来不是，但是我母亲总是告诉我懂你是干什么儿子。但是这个国家这个民族，你看到昨天就是3年前天安门时候，我脑子这一天就是时刻就忘不了那一幕。共产党碾压这些人的时候，你们还没出生呢；就共产党虐待你的爷爷奶奶、杀掉这些地主的时候，你们还没出生呢。那为什么呢？这是当奴隶能当几代人呢？我们这个民族真得想一想。说我们身在今天美国阳光明媚中央公园，人家是用血汗正义信仰换来的这个伟大的国家。你像班农这样人，他就每天叭就跟那么站。你看昨天川普总统那个演讲的现场，你看那个，我们会吗？我们太现实了，这个民主完全没有信仰，完全不寻求正义，完全是投机主义，只要活着像猪一样的活着。这样的民族和国家想等来民主和公平，太难了，太难了啊！今天就让盖特，这盖特被黑了，是不是？你想过被黑之前有多少付出吗？你能努力到被人家黑也是不是简单的事儿？共产党不是随便黑你的，是吧？啊，大家看到失败的时候，看到困难的时候，有没有看到有人多少付出啊？昨天小王子、佳佳、小飞象，我们的那个谁，小飞侠。约翰、波波，还有我们将近200个工程师，全部都没有睡觉，都睡在冰冷的地板上，都在这块坐着。啊，我们有大概5000个人，昨天是没有人睡觉，都在删帖子。我们有3万个战友，全部在工作，没有任何人去想这个问题的时候，我心里想的是这个，我很难受，啊，我很感激，很感动。你来给班农先生翻译。
Mr. Miles Gore said, when he sees what's happening today, and after our platform being hacked today, he thinks about when he was in jail in 1989 for supporting the Tiananmen Square people. in the students. He said, the thing that struck him the most is the lack of sympathy among the Chinese people. He said he went to visit one of his jailmates' mother one day on another 4th of July. One day, the mother was crying and told him that she hopes the next time that he comes to visit her that there will not be a Chinese Communist Party. And then he says this morning he woke up very early. Every morning he wakes up, he prays for his mother, and this morning he just could not stop crying. And in the past he always talked to his mother about his ambitions wanting to take down the CCP, but he couldn't say it to her. He just drank a lot of alcohol and get drunk and then start crying all night long. And then his mother always understand him. She tells him that, son, I understand what you're trying to do, but if you take a look at the Chinese people today, there's a great lack of sympathy. No one seems to care about anything. They only want to live like a pig. And then he said, if you take a look at the July 1st at Tiananmen Square, of all the people that were standing there around, average age about 30, he thinks, when the Chinese Communist Party are murdering, massacring the Chinese people, the landlords, when they're running tanks over the students in Tiananmen Square. All of those people in Tiananmen Square on July 1st, they weren't even born. How could the Chinese people be slaves for not just one generation, but multiple generations? It's because of the lack of faith, right? And today a lot of people look at Getter and say, oh, Getter's getting hacked. But, nobody ever stopped to think that how hard the Getter team have worked for Getter to get hacked, for the CCP to be so afraid of Getter to hack it. He said, a lot of us here and the engineer team, about, 20,000 people all around the world, working on moderation, working on engineering, working on, customer service, working on all facets of the Getter business. People who have worked so hard for so long to get Getter where it is today, and then to get for the CCP to be so afraid of it to get hacked. So when you see failures, most people think about the failure, but very few people think about the hard work that's behind this failure. And he said, if the Chinese people continue to have such lack of empathy, if Chinese people continue to not care about each other, not care about life, liberty, then it's going to be a great disaster for the Chinese people. And then he said, the new Federal State of China, when he sees this, he realized, it's so difficult to achieve democracy and freedom for the Chinese people, but he will still keep fighting.
If I can just add to that, I think that's why it's because of conditioning, and it's because of it's conditioning, and it only takes a little people. Remember, in our revolution, people should not forget, 1/3 of the colonists were loyalists, were Tories. They did not want to break off from the British Empire. In fact, they fought the highest casualty rates in our revolution were the Tories and the German mercenaries that fought, not the British Army. It was the German mercenaries that came here, the Hessians that were paid to come here and fight, because they couldn't get enough troops that wanted to volunteer in England to come and fight their own Englishmen, countrymen, and the Tories here that want to be part of the British Empire. 1/3 of the people were in the middle, like they always do. People are nervous and cowards. They just want to see what side's going to win. And then less than 1/3 of the American colonists actually fought in the Revolution and were patriots. In fact, 2/3 of the people at the time said, all you're going to do is cause us problems. We don't mind being subjects to a king because we can just get by with our material life. It was that small portion. And that's what I see in the new federal state, in what I call in Miles, what you call the new China, the new Chinese, these young Chinese that are living in democracies, that have left mainland China, whether it was Hong Kong or Taiwan, but principally Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, United Kingdom and Europe, right? That are breathing the free and crisp air of freedom and are prospering, right? They're the ones that have empathy. They're the ones that have sympathy, and here's why. Look at how much time and effort I see around people that are working with GTV and G News and the whistleblower movement and New Federal State that are doing it out of their love for their country, their love for their countrymen, because they want to help free China. They could be doing other pursuits for that extra time they have and increasing their material well-being, but they're volunteering their time, their effort, and their being in this fight for freedom for the Chinese people. That's where I think you're seeing the empathy. That's where you're seeing the sympathy as they get to freedom and understand how powerful freedom is, and they want to pass it on not just to their families that have escaped, but also to mainland China. That's where it's going to come. And the people on the mainland have been subjugated to incredible thought control. And the biggest thing, and you taught me this, is that they've taken God out of the Chinese person's life, right? So centrally, they made it just totally materialistic that has been a big hindrance. And that's why I keep saying the leadership in the Christian church, in the 21st century is going to come from China, because those underground house Christians, those underground Catholics, right, are undergoing a persecution like the Christians did in first century Rome. And so wherever you see the empathy is coming from people who believe in God and are seeing the freedom. The 1 billion Chinese are thought controlled by the CCP. But that's all gonna crumble, because I think you're seeing the power, and that's why you see new federal state, why so many people go, hey, I like what they have to say. I want to follow what they have to say, because they have some purpose in life. They have some sort of spiritual, something to a higher purpose. And just, as you say, living like pigs or dogs, like the Chinese Communist Party wants to continue to have the slave labor. By the way, the corporations in the United States, in the world, and the party at Davos, the World Economic Forum, want the Chinese to be slave laborers too, because it means more money, more profits. So, no, I'm actually very enthusiastic. And that's why I think the hacking of Getter is just, they're not going to stop Getter. They're not going to stop this platform. They're not going to stop the Chinese people from sharing ideas. It's just another step in this process of freedom. Remember, today's Independence Day in America, where we declared our independence, it was 8 years, 8 bloody years. And people should understand, in most of those years, in 2/3 of that time, we were losing. Okay? It's not like we declared it and it was victory right away. It's 8 years against the biggest empire in the world, and for most of that time, we were losing. We were getting our ass kicked. Okay, the first year after the Declaration of Independence, the first military, all the way up to Christmas, in this city, in Manhattan, where the biggest battles were fought in that first 200 days, we got our ass kicked. Washington got his ass kicked. The American Army got its ass kicked. We just lost battle after battle after battle after battle. But we believed in God, and we never gave up. And that's where we got our freedom.
We have maybe 20 minutes. We are get back. We disappear CCP. God. Thanks God. Then I need a phone call from Beijing. They want to make a deal maybe.
Stop your hacking.
文贵先生刚刚说还有20分钟，不到20分钟我们就可以恢复我们的整个这个盖特平台。我们要感谢万福万神，感谢上帝。然后说北京刚刚接到北京的信息，可能会有一些谈判。然后翻译班农先生刚才说的内容，就是说班农先生说，文贵先生刚才说中国人没有同情心这些，他认为最主要的原因是共产党对于中国人的洗脑，尤其是文贵先生所说的，就是说中国人没有任何信仰，他们心中没有上帝。班农先生同时提到，如果你要看美国的独立战争的时候，仅有少于1/3的人是真正支持美国独立战争的，是真正的爱国者，参与美国独立战争的，有超过这个2/3的人，他们都是反对美国独立战争的。所以说很小一部分人，他们的努力可以推动整个这个世界和美国独立战争的改变。他说，当你看到在这个新中国联邦人身上，当你看到这些在机器列工作的这些人的身上，在他们身上看到的这些热情，他们为了这些自由民主，为了他人的利益而去这个义工的。这个不惜成本的、不惜代价的，这么热情、这么努力去工作的时候，他看到了真正的像当年美国独立战争这少于1/3人他们身上的这些真正爱国者的他们身上的这些这个热情和这个激情。他说， 他同时提到说，你看到这个现在今天的中国，就是所有这些中国被迫害的这些宗教人士，尤其是基督教人士、信仰上帝人士，他认为在未来的21世纪，整个这个宗教领域，尤其是基督教领域的领导的人将来自于中国，因为中国人今天在中国这些地下的这些教会，他们所遭受的迫害，就像当年十字军一样，就像当年这个黑世纪一样，被迫害那些西方的这些这个宗教人士、基督教人士。所以他说，当你看到很多人说，看到新中国联邦说我们非常喜欢新中国联邦人，我们非常喜欢新中国联邦人想要说的这些事情，他们追求的理想，是因为他们看到新中国联邦人身上，他们追求一个有意义的生活，他们为了他人而奋斗，他们为了一个理想，为了一个崇高的志愿而去奋斗。所以他说，你同时要看到，就是我们当年打独立战争的时候，在长达8年独立战争中，将近2/3的时间，美国都是在输的啊，尤其是在宣布独立宣言之后的100天，100-200天内，几乎每一场战争，美国军队都是输掉的。但是因为这些人的不懈的努力和他们信仰的上帝，他们心中的信仰和他们的不懈的努力，最终能够推翻了这个英国殖民统治，创造了美国这个独立的国家。所以他非常非常相信，更非常有希望，有了新中国联邦，有了我们所有人一起的共同的努力，我们一定可以成功的推翻共产党。Sir.
I think we're going to take a break until Miles returns. But I want to thank everybody. We're kicking off. We'll be throughout the day, be back, and I think Miles says is going to be up in 20 or 30 minutes fully, and we've got a lot to, I think, opportunities and news are going to be on Getter today. And I just want to thank everybody, particularly Lao Beijing and the diaspora, the Chinese people, for your support in watching War Room and making War Room such an important show. It's 100% because of you. We try to provide the information every day. And the one thing I can tell you is the American people love the Chinese people. And you saw that last night in Sarasota, Florida. That's American Lao Beijing. And that's rising and getting more powerful every day. We're taking back the political, we're taking back the House in 2022. President Trump's going to win a sweeping landslide in 2024 if he's not back in the White House before then, which I think there's still a very good possibility that's going to happen. And so there's a lot of political things happening here in America and in China. And just want to thank everybody for following us for G News and GTV and the team that have done such a great job in the translation. I just really want to thank everybody, Prince.
Thank you. 班农先生说这个我们要稍微休息一会儿，然后大概在20分钟左右呢，盖特会重新上线，会恢复这个被黑客的这个攻击。然后班农先生同时提到，就是他非常感谢所有的这个支持这个班农战斗史和支持 GTV、G News 盖特、支持 G 系列的所有的人民，尤其是这个观众这个屏幕前的所有的老百姓，因为是你们的支持，我们才能够有了今天，我们才能够成功的上线。他说呢，就是我们会看到将来在2020年，这个共和党将会重新赢得美国的2院，甚至在2024年，川普总统会再次赢得大选。但是他认为还有这个川普总统甚至还有机会在2024年之前就重回白宫。他说，这个鼓励所有人千万不要放弃。然后他再次感谢所有的这个电视机前的所有的观众朋友们，尤其是所有的老百姓们。然后也再次感谢所有的G系列背后工作的所有团队。说我们稍微就会回来，谢谢大家。
Happy Independence Day and take down the CCP.